So we've got the idea, haven't we now, of how we build a model properly and how we can link together multiple data flows into a single data model that can then produce and serve up a report. Right? You've probably heard ideas of like thin reports, or I'll always call them secondary reports because that's, in my mind, that makes more sense than thin report, right? Structurally, they're the same thing. But one of the things that you often struggle with is, or people often struggle with as they're getting into the service, is the idea of going from a Power BI desktop file to, well, I can now, instead of creating a new data model, actually link to some work that someone else has done. And that transformative step is the change. And that, for me, is the difference that Power BI has over its competition, is that capability. So what I wanted to do today was let's have a look at doing just that. Alright then. So, apologise about the noggin. I was doing a race at the weekend, so I always get like a little clean trim to make you more streamlined. The whole point that we want to look at today is what are we going to do about enabling next level analytics in our model. So we've got a file now that we've built. Right? We've got a report pack in the interweb that people can look at and people can see, and it's available free, and I'll put a link in the description down below for you to have a look, and you can go and view the report if you want. Right? But what can we do next? Because that's kind of the whole point. This is one of the areas I want to do. So we're going to cover today a few things, tips, tricks, whatever you want. It's going to be a little bit less structured than what I'd normally do, largely because there's lots of little bits to cover in here. So there'll probably be a timeline down below as well. So let's cut on through and we'll start in the Power BI service and see where we get to from there. Yeah? Champion. Here we are, Power BI homepage. Okay, get used to it. This is one of the pages that you should be sending people to. Okay? Microsoft are making it easier now to share links to report pages and stuff, and the fact they've done that suggests it's going to be easier. Please be cautious with that, would be my advice. Right? Looking at sharing links to individual reports it'll work for a period, and then suddenly you'll find you've got a mess of permissions and it doesn't work. Right? What works really well with Microsoft Power BI and sharing content is if you share it with a Microsoft team. So I say Microsoft team because often many businesses will have set up the rights, or they're used to the idea where Fred, Wilma, Steve, Bilbo Baggins, whoever works there can like either create their own teams. Oh, what a nightmare that is, I know, but it works, right? Or you can limit it so a few people can create the teams, right? If you share apps with a team, right, then you'll find that works really easily for you, because then in terms of who's got access to that, it's whoever's in that team and has a Power BI license. Right? I'm going to say and has a Power BI license because that becomes important. You know, remember there's a difference now when you've got premium per user. So if you've got that in your state as well, that's another thing to think through and understand and be aware of. But typically, I would say if you go down this route, even if it's just for one or two people, it gets a consistent route and it makes sense, and it stops you going, well, I've created a link to share. Because if you create a link to share, right, and then they send it to their mate who doesn't have access, then they'll come to you and complain, right? And that doesn't work for you because that's annoying, right? Whereas if you share it with a team, then you're effectively saying to, you know, if it's to Steve, hello Steve, I've created your report for you, it's dead good, here it is, I've published it up, this is the team that you gave me to give access to, I've given it access to it. If you want anyone else to have access to it, they need a Power BI subscription and they need to be in your team. Okay? Don't come to me. And then Steve can go, oh, this is a fantastic idea. I really like this structured approach that I don't have to worry too much. And then tomorrow, when John arrives and Steve needs to share it with John, Steve will go, "Oh, Ross, how do I give John access?" Well, just add John to the team. "How do I do that?" Yeah. And then, sorry, I can't help you beyond that. But you get the picture, right? Get into that mindset of using Teams to support that, and that will help you. Much easier than individually sharing stuff with people, right? And if you start individually sharing reports within a workspace, you're really opening up a can of worms for yourself there, because you then have one workspace feeding lots of different people. So what we've got now, yeah, is we've got this data model workspace set up. Okay, remember my mind, I like to separate them out. I don't know, it's difficult. I'm still trying to get the right mindset or the right feel for this in my own environment. So so we go in here and we've got the report that's been published up. So the free report is available. There's a link to say, got 2 pages to it. You can pick inspector locations or score breakdown. We can pick the regions, we can pick whatever we want to see. So we can go to the southwest area, see what's happening, or southeast, sorry, even. So there we go, yeah. We've found Jeremy Clarkson's place. But we can see the food hygiene ratings, and these are updating now daily. It's automatic. I don't have to do anything, okay? I've got a scores breakdown, so you can actually see a breakdown of the scores, what goes into actually getting a 0, for example. So we can see that major improvements are required, urgent, yeah. So clearly we can see what's going on. We can see where the 0s are. We can pick a different thing. So we can say, well, where are the 5s? Obviously, we're starting to get to the point where we're flooding the map. So, zooming in on the map's not going to give you all the places, but you get a good impression of what's going on. What I also had in here, and this is one that unfortunately, the nature of it is, well, I really like the way this was, because it allowed you to kind of look and see, well, what's going on, what are the factors that go into it, and that's why I replicated that in the other one that we could put on the free. So it was great to be able to look and see what's happening, but we've now built a report, haven't we, that we can then say, right, I want to get this and do more with it. Okay, and that would be the question that's come back, 6 months' time, if you think. Right, someone might say, right, Ross, I need you to update that report for me, make something better. Okay, right, words to that effect, anyway. Right, we could come up with all sorts of reasons, but that'd be the core, the crux of it, wouldn't it? So one of the things I often get is asked, well, what's the right thing to do, right? Because it is an absolute nightmare, source control with Power BI. I've done many things where I said, right, we've got a repository, we've got this, okay? Because people can come in, hit edit, and edit the report content here, right? My advice is always come up with a way that effectively people can check stuff out. Say, I'm working on this file now, right? And I think I've seen there's some stuff in the works around doing things like that at a PBIX level, right, which is useful. But when you start with this, what I would always say is kind of probably, again, using your Teams might be a good place. Say, look, Ross, I'm working on food hygiene report, PBIX file. This is the report I'm working on, or I'm working on the master model file, which effectively is what this is at this point, right? Don't mess with it, right? Once we start getting the thin reports, it'll be easy. But what we're going to do is we're going to split this report file. So we have the report and we'll have the data model as 2 separate things, right? So what you do, what I recommend, and what I've found, as I say, from just doing this and the practicalities of it is, go to File, download the PBIX file from here, okay? This is the version that's live, and for all it shouldn't work and it shouldn't be this way, and I can get behind people saying, well, that's stupid, I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be the right way, all the time. It does, because people who will have crept in, you know, like a manager's come in and said, oh, can you change the colour scheme of the ratings? And rather than somebody go and do it in the version that's in the repository, update it, and then publish it up and promote it up into the website, they've just done it directly in here. And I've seen it happen far too often to be at the point where I'm going to say, oh, well, you know, they're terrible, you know, get rid of them. Right? I've done it myself. So I know I'm not going to create a whole new thing, download this, do that, which is going to take us 15, 20 minutes when somebody said to us, your business is in England here. Can you put, can you change it from having K to just be the whole number? Well, yeah, I can. It'll take me 2 seconds to do it here, or I can do it in a Power BI file. Yes, I should do it in a Power BI file, and I should do it properly, but dollars to donuts, I can almost guarantee at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon when that request comes through, because they need it, because Jeff, the big boss, is looking at the report, right? But, you know, you come through here, hit that, blah, 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 done. Okay, so yeah, no problem, there you go, done, reading view, save. Okay, I've now updated that PBIX file, and then tomorrow when I'm working on the one offline, it's not going to work. So it's one of those where you get to that point that you do these little tweaks to fit it in, and then it's out of sync. And I've gone through the point of saying, well, you know, yeah, we should do it, and then once we get to that go live, once they've done the demo to Jeff, the big boss, we should then download a copy of the PBIX file and put it in the repository, and that's fine. That would be our golden report, and there's good reasons for that, but ultimately you're still stuck when somebody decides to do something similar here, you know, or they might decide the average hygiene, it should be 1 decimal place instead of 2. You know, little things like that will happen, and you'll make these tweaks, and then over time that becomes a big deal. And when you think about report content that you're putting into Power BI, it'll be live for a year, 2 years. So there's going to be tweaks along the way. So that's why, for me, I'd always say, get used. And so when you get a request come through, make sure everyone knows this week, today, whatever it is, I'm doing work on here. Didn't touch this file, this model, whatever it is you're doing, right? Because I'm doing that work, right? Download the PBIX, okay? Hit the download. It gives you the download is being prepared, but thing, message. Yeah, exporting it might take a few minutes. Takes a period. If it's a secondary report or one of the thin ones, it's a lot quicker. This has got all the data and everything, so it's effectively downloading everything into a PBIX file that will download locally for me. I now know that this is the version that's published. Alright, so we've got Power BI Desktop. This is the file we've got. We can see we've got the same numbers here, haven't we? Fully spelled out as well, no K's in there. Jeff would be happy. What we can do now is we can start to say, well, right, we've kind of published already the data. The data's there, isn't it? So what we want to do is we want to be able to say, right, let's get rid of the report piece from it. Right, let's rip the report piece out. The simplest thing, or what we'll do for this one, is we're going to leave the report there. Okay, because what we're going to do is, that's what I've got set up linked to a free report people can look at and see and do bits and pieces with. But as we said, the key influences people wouldn't be able to see. So what I want to do is get to the point that we can bring the key influences into place and actually enable people to interact and see it. But to do that, you have to have a Power BI license, so you've got to be in the thing. So we've got to have a second version that's somewhere else. So there's a couple of ways you can do this, but the easiest way, or the sensible thing, probably not the easy way, the sensible thing for you to learn is how to take a data set version that's there and let's split it out. Okay? You can do both, right? In terms of if you want to publish just the data set, right, it's dead easy. Okay, you've got your report here, everything's built, right? Basically, you delete all the pages except one and leave it, I think it's blank, or I put in table counts, yeah, like count of rows. So like we've got with the businesses, where we've got just a count, because you have to have something. It has to have a report page, is the expectation that the Power BI service has of a PBIX file. So you can have a row count for each table. I've done that in the past, it works, it's nice. Right? Or you can just have a blank report page. The main thing is you have to have that page. You can publish that. Right? You then have obviously a copy of that report that you took before you did that. And this is where we're going to start and say, right, well, how do we connect this to that? Okay? And it's a bit counterintuitive. So what we have to do is we have to go to transform data. Okay? And effectively what we're looking to do is get rid of everything. You go, what? You want to do what, sorry? You're going to do what? I'm going to get rid of everything. Why are you going to get rid of everything? Well, we're going to get rid of everything to create everything again. Makes sense. Let's get rid of these. Delete those. Delete these. Yeah, so if you remember, Power BI doesn't let you delete references that are being used. Makes sense. Now we can delete the groups. So we've got no groups. Okay. Just close and apply. Okay. This is all going to go, oh, this doesn't work. Okay. And what you want is to have it come back and say, nothing there. Huh. Where's the data? Because now, under get data, what we can do is we can click a Power BI data set. Right? And you have to kind of purge the data first before you can connect to the new data set. And in this case, the new data is going to be the same as the old data. So what we should see when we scroll down here and find it, so let's put in food. Okay, so we've got the food hygiene report that was refreshed 7 hours ago. Click on that. See, everything comes back. I can now, over in my workspaces, in my Power BI service, create a new one, App UK Food, right? Because it's going to be the app for it. Save that. And I've got here, right? It's empty. There's nothing there, right? So if I come back to my report page, and we choose to publish it, choose App UK Food, publish that, right? What you'll find is suddenly the report content is available there, and that App Workspace is connected to the dataset. But if we look here, there's no dataset here. Content-wise, we've got a report. Let's see if we can see the lineage of it. If we view lineage, it's going to show us. So it's going back, telling us I'm linked to this other location for this workspace, and say, well, let's create an app. Okay. And obviously remove the UK food hygiene, we'll just call it England food hygiene. England food hygiene. We could put support site information, app icons, give it a different color scheme, red, whatever you wanted to choose. Okay. I've got a nice teal. Contact information, so we could say, right, if in the event of a problem, contact me. Information about the navigation, so what's going to be there. And at this point we could say, well, let's put in a link, and the link in this case is going to be, this is going to be Geordie Intelligence. Okay, and we could say to open up in a new tab, the current area. We've got no section there, but we could add a section. We could, you know, right, there's lots you can do. If there's more reports, you'll have them all appear here, and you can choose to hit the hide button. Okay, and then we will, in the permissions, sorry, don't forget the permissions, most important thing, who we're going to do it to, give it to, sorry. Let's give it to the YouTube group. Okay, and then these are two areas, or a couple of areas to tick or think through. So allow all users connected to the underlying build permissions. Right. My advice would be, unless there's a reason, leave it ticked. Right. Unless you've got a reason to say, well, just no, because what they need to be able to do, what they need to do it is open up Power BI desktop, which most people won't do, connect to a Power BI dataset, and then they can build report content on it. The thing to remember is they don't have edit rights, so they can fiddle, do whatever they want, but they can't break, and that's key. So it's not giving them break rights, it's giving them the ability to go and fiddle themselves, create their own report content, come back and challenge you, right? Or more likely than not, come back and go, all right, okay, yeah, I suppose you were okay, and grudgingly accept. If you want to get buy-in to Power BI and to a good data strategy, tick the box. If you don't tick the box, you will constantly have to create new report content for them. If we now publish this, so from my apps, if I click on Get Apps, see, I've got my England Food Hygiene, there it is. So I can click on that, and I can now see, here's my report page. All the pages are available. Gosh, it looks horrible in that teal, but or I can click on the link and open up my company website, okay, or support page, or whatever it was that we chose to put in there for it. Okay, so that all works. Simple, easy, seamless, right? Fast forward next week, there's another team we need to set up, do the same, different app, right? It makes it much easier, because if you manage it at a report level, and then you have to change it, right, which one am I changing? And then somebody, manage apps, okay? It's a much easier access layer to manage, okay? So what do you reckon then? You need to use apps in the Power BI service to really manage your content effectively, okay? It is possible to do other things, but honestly, it's a small time fix. And what you'll find is, as you scale, which you will, right, with Power BI, I've not known anybody say, well, I've started with this little one report, and we're still on this little one report a year later. Right? You start with that little one report, and a year later, you've got 20 reports, 100 reports, 1,000 reports, right? And it's not clutter, it's good content that works well. And the way you do that is by overlaying that structure to it. And that structure comes from your workspaces and apps as your consumption layer for people who are just going to be read-only viewers of it. Okay. If you do that, then over time, when you scale, or you get to a point where you say, we're looking at the costs, we need to do something else. Because even a small, medium-sized company, you might find that going down the Power BI embedded route, you might get a cheaper return on your investment, especially if you're looking at doing something that your customers, for example, are going to be able to access as well. Because that's possible. If you go now and you say, well, could our customers have access to our data some way, or a customer view? Yeah, of course they can. Okay? You can use your Power BI workspace. You can use the way that they connect to each other and connect to the data sets externally to give access to stuff that's far beyond where you would want them to have access to. But because you've got the right DAX statements in place, the right aggregation layers, the right structures, you can limit what's actually coming through, and you can use your data flows to further enforce that, because your data flows can really bring together a table that is effectively that aggregation table. And then because you've got embedded will have the whole RBAC layer, role-based access, to make sure that when Ross from Geordie Intelligence logs in, he sees the Geordie Intelligence information. When Steve from Mackham Marauders comes in, right, he sees the data related to Mackham Marauders. Okay? You can kind of get the picture. It works very well, okay? And you can find, doing that, and suddenly your customers might be able to see where their order is, might be able to see what's pending, what's due. And that view can make a huge difference to everybody's lives. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that. I know I've enjoyed doing this whole food hygiene stuff. We've kind of gone quite a long way with it. You know, remember we started with a single XML file, with that little mindset of this is what I do. I get an Excel spreadsheet emailed to me once a day, twice a day, and then I build a report based on it every time, and it takes an hour. And we've managed to automate that, and we've now just blown that one out of the water. We've now got 311 being done every day automatically. I'm not lifting a finger for this, okay? And it just runs. And if I wanted to, I'd probably do it 2 or 3 times a day if we really wanted to. If we really wanted to, we could automate it and have it all set up properly with it using the API. And I just didn't want to do that for this video series. So there you go. So don't forget, like and subscribe down below. Add your comments. Let us know what you're thinking. Did you like it? Is there things that you thought were missed? And yeah, have a great weekend. Ta-da!